Hola and welcome to Chats con Sabor. I'm Joanna and I'm here with my two lovely hosts, Yvette and Linda.
Hello. We're back. This is our first official episode, right?
After the test runs.
Yes, after the 2 test runs. Today's topic is going to be raising kids and all the different facets of raising children, right? So all 3 of us are moms. All 3 of us grew up with strict parents with that whole Hispanic culture background. So I think some of that seeps into the way we raise our kids, right?
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh, yes.
so it should be an interesting
Can I tell you something
topic.
that I watched the other day, and my stepson, he loves cereal. Like since he was little, like he could sit down and skip lunch and eat 3 bowls of cereal, and he will be happy. And up to this day, he's 21, he's 20, and I remember because that's how I grew up. You know, my parents, especially my stepmom, really, she was so strict. So I don't know about you guys. Number 1, 2 things. 1, I always put the cereal on top of the fridge. I don't know if you guys.
I used to do that, but yeah.
Yeah, right? Okay. And then 2, I wouldn't let, I'm going to say him just because the girls, they didn't care too much.
Yeah.
They had to eat 1 cereal at a time. Like, you know, I could go to the store and buy one, get one or whatever. And I'm coming home with 4 boxes.
Yeah.
The kids get excited, you know, oh my gosh, you know, and then I'm like, no. 1 at a time, because then we end up with like only a little bit on each box. And then I think we have cereal. But anyways, but that whole thing came to the way that my stepmom was with me. She was so strict about what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, what, you know, it's about to be lunchtime. You're not getting a snack. And it's so funny because I saw this video. And he says something like, when you go to your friend's house and you realize that your parents have stupid rules. and then the friend goes, oh yeah, you know, it was something like after a sleepover or something. And he goes, oh yeah, I grabbed some cereal. And the guy's like, which one? And then he goes, yeah, just pick one. And he's like, any cereal? Like, are you sure?
Oh,
is your mom going to be okay? And then the other kid is like, stop being weird. He's like, you don't have to eat if you don't want to. And he goes, no, I want to eat. I never had so many options.
That is
And
so
I sent it to my stepson because I'm guilty. I was that parent. I still am, and I'm allowing to now. But yeah, that was me, and it's completely influenced by the way that I was raised.
Yeah.
Because when I think that's what I think is so appropriate about that video that I watched, because when I saw that video, and I was like, that's true. That was a stupid rule. Like, why did I have that rule? Just because I was so used to it. That's how I was raised, and that's what I passed on to my kids. Wild.
It's so crazy.
Such trauma.
I'm not gonna lie. This has been like an eye-opening situation recently, because I never thought of an option of allowing the kids to just devour whatever they want to. I don't know.
So this actually is a good segue into my first question for you guys. And I want to ask you, because your kids are older, like my kids. So what do you think about, or do you consider yourself like a helicopter parent? Like those that are just, like you said, so strict and looking over everything and just watching out what they're doing and every movement. Were you like that with your kids, or were you a little bit more like, you know?
No.
Go and make your mistakes, children.
Well, I mean, twofold. I was 19 when I had Christian. So we kind of grew up together. So we grew up super close with each other. Mm-hmm. And I think when he just started getting older, like more of like, 7, then it's when I started with the rules. Christian, make sure you clean this up, make sure you take a shower. Then I was a little bit more on him. As he got older, I think I got on him a little bit more. And it's just more responsibility and learning to self-care and all that. Because at one point I was a single parent. So,
So you didn't have a dad there to show him the boy stuff.
The boy stuff, so I had to be in charge of the boy stuff too.
Yeah.
And so I pretty much let him figure things out and still be a little independent, but still show him some guidance to where he needed to go. And I think with Sean, Sean was more so the baby because there's a almost 8-year gap between them two. So with him, it was a little bit more hovering, but not hovering to the point that I would suffocate him. Mm-hmm. So I think his dad was more of the hover and the strict when it came to education and all that stuff. I was more of the disciplinarian when they did something wrong or anything like that. So
Yeah.
we kind of tag team both ends, but I was not a helicopter parent.
Well, they say that even if two different kids have the same set of parents, you're not the same parent to each kid because
Very true.
Different level of maturity, different stages in life, even financially, all these different things that could.
Definitely the stages.
When I think about like, am I a helicopter parent or not, and in my brain I have like two sets of raising. So I raise my stepkids, and then now I'm raising my kids. So I want to say that when it comes to like toddler ages or like baby ages, like I was not a helicopter parent. Like, not judging, but like I never understood those moms that they felt better by sleeping with the baby in the bed with them. If I could feed you and teach you to just be in your bed as much as I want the bond, no, I need my sleep too. So since my kids were little and babies, I tried to anyways, not helicopter them too much in that sense, obviously taking care of their needs. And then toddler stage, definitely not a helicopter parent. I'm that type of, but then again, I have boys, right? Maybe if I had girls, it would be different. But I'm type of parent, yes, get on that swing, jump, get off, like scrape your knee,
Be a boy.
Not just that, but make arepas out of dirt, like get dirty. No, I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, no, go get dirty. Now, when it comes to electronics, homework, even chores, even though Logan doesn't have too much chores, but when I have my stepkids, chores. Like those things, I've always been very strict. And although at times I feel like I could be harsh with myself and say that it's too much. Even now that I see my stepkids as much older people, I wouldn't change anything. As a matter of fact, I think that's everything that's wrong with today's society is the fact that when it comes to responsibility, we don't want to teach our kids responsibility when they were little, but then when they're 14, 15, 16, all of a sudden you want to teach them how to respect an adult, how to da-da-da. And it's like, I'm sorry, buddy.
They become wild.
It's way too late. Yeah. It's, 14, 15, 16. You should have taught them when they were 5, when they were 6. So I'm not a helicopter parent when it comes to their safety. Not really their safety, but like learning to trust their own senses of safety, their own senses of, you want to learn how to cook. You want to help me? Yeah, go ahead. The other day, Logan cooked something for himself. And I kept telling him, lift your elbow because you're too short on the stove. Lift your elbow. That way, if you cook, the border doesn't get the pan. Mm-hmm. That's how you get to scramble your eggs, whatever. And he goes, okay, Mom. I got burnt. Are you okay? Yeah, okay. Continue. Oh, but I got burnt. It's okay. Let's put toothpaste so you take some of that stain off and get back to cooking. That's it. It's part of life. So 50-50, I feel, on my parenting techniques. But I will say that I'm less strict with my kids now than I was with my stepkids. And it's kind of like the whole thing with the cereal. I think with maturity, I came to realize that a lot of the rules and limits that I was creating for them were a little stupid.
Well, but that's all you knew.
And stupid rules, they were.
And you were young. You're young.
Yeah, I was young.
I mean, you were young. And those were rules that were implemented on you, and you're like, okay, I'm all right, so why not implement it on them?
Yeah, I didn't die.
Yeah.
I'm still alive. I'm
still
okay
alive,
for
so,
now.
It works. Growing up, I remember the kids in the neighborhood and stuff. I mean, we went out at the crack of dawn. We ate breakfast, whatever, and then we were outside all day long. There was no lunchtime or whatever, and we would come in when the lights came on outside on the streets. So we were literally out there
all day
on our own. So, I mean, unless it started raining or something, or, it was cold and we were playing inside somebody's house, then of course, our parents needed to know. But for the most part, I mean, we weren't seen really or heard. Like, we were just out playing all the time. So I wasn't raised that way, with my mom. And even though she was a single mom, I mean, I wasn't raised with her, like, watching my every move and everything like that. But I think I turned out okay. And so when I started having when I had my son, he's my firstborn, really, like, everything was like, I had his crib right next to my bed. He slept in his crib, or his bassinet, whatever, and then the crib. But real close knit, whatever. But by the time I had my second child, which was my first daughter, I was like looking out the window. They slept together. She slept in her crib in the same room with him, whatever. He had his own bed, but it was, and then by the time the third one came along, let me tell you something. There's 7 years between my older daughter and my youngest daughter. My youngest being my last child, my third child. And I swear to you, my ex-husband and I would call the nursing hotline at the hospital, the military hospital, every time something went wrong. Because I'm like, I literally forgot. I did not know how to handle a newborn, a baby. I was like, is it normal that she's doing this? Yes. Is it normal that yes. Is it, is she going to die if I, it was so wild. I mean, I felt like we were brand new parents, like, for the first time ever. But when she started getting older and toddler, I, of course, had 2 older kids that helped with her and stuff. But yeah, I mean, they even say, oh my God, you're so lucky, like, because mom didn't do this and that. So I think
Oh my God.
as we have kids,
That is such a sibling thing. It's so annoying.
It is, but as we have the kids, we kind of learn to kind of, like, let go of the reins a little bit and just let them be children. You know what I mean? They are going to fall. They are going to get hurt. All I'm saying is that I think as time goes on, we just learn how to, like, loosen up on the reins with each child. We start one way based on how we grew up, and then we kind of loosen up a little bit. Yeah. So right along those lines, how much attention is too much attention, do you guys think? And does it matter, like, at what age they're at?
I think it depends what kind of attention they're getting, because I've seen, like, even at the playground, right? And, the kid, it can be throwing a tantrum. And then the mom is like, oh my gosh, my little, and then I look at it and I'm like, why? Like, just get up and keep on playing, so if that's the kind of attention they're getting, where they're not letting, kind of helicopter parents, or they're not letting the kid have critical thinking, they're not letting the kid have all these different things, then absolutely too much. Our kids don't need that.
Right.
Our kids don't need that. Our kids need us to be emotionally available. Our kids need us to be firm, give them rules, guidance.
Guidance, that's a key word.
Yeah.
Guidance.
So, but if the attention you're giving them is teaching them about life, spending quality time, and that kind of stuff, I don't think there's such thing as a too much attention, because all you're doing is creating a stronger bond for your kid. And as long as you're doing it within that healthy parameter, then I think it's good, because then you're creating, like I said, a strong bond, and then hopefully avoid some of the mommy issues or daddy issues, because they've been taken care of emotionally and mentally and spiritually. But definitely there is a side of that could be very bad.
I think that's why Gen X is so hardcore.
Because
our parents were like, go outside, go play.
like I said, we were outside all the time, right? Like, yeah. They were like, oh, you're here?
We were made Ford tough.
Built Ford tough.
Can I tell you something? A little.
Yes.
There's this Colombian, and I don't know if it's more of like a Southern, South America thing. But anyway, there's this Colombian comedian where he talks about your generation, and he goes, you know what? When I was a kid, and my dad would be reading the paper on a Sunday, and he'll be like, "Te dejé café. I left you coffee." Then I would be like, oh, "My dad didn't need no hug. We did not need no.
All we needed was coffee.
Yeah, and you know,
Small gestures
and that
is what makes it
and that could
Yeah,
translate to
it was-
different things. Oh,
yeah, the
let's
little
do,
things.
like, oh, here's a cartoon of the newspaper. Here you
Yeah.
go. It was little
Yeah.
things like that. It was never the having conversations with you. It was never the let me love you, let me be affectionate with you. It was completely different.
Yeah.
There was
It's
no
like
affection.
it
in
was
our
more like
household.
I kept you alive. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. You're still here, so that's good on you.
Yeah.
That's funny. So that's actually a good segue into my next question for you guys. Can boys grow up to be healthy adult men without their fathers around? And I feel like we all, to some degree, I mean, I guess the same question goes for females too. But I think we all, to some degree, have like dealt with this with our children, you know? So my ex-husband is a retired Marine, and he deployed a lot, you know, because I mean, that was the military life. But he left, he moved away, he got stationed in Okinawa, Japan, for 2 years. So he left September of my son's senior year. And I chose to stay back with the kids at home because I didn't want to move him and have him go finish high school somewhere where he doesn't know when all his friends are at home. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. I felt like keeping him and letting him finish school was, you know, move for a year and then he would probably move back after the year, you know?
It's definitely a sensible decision.
Yeah, so we stayed back, and my ex and I had this conversation a long time ago. My son's turning 30 in April, so you know it's kind of a moot point now. But back then, he feels like he kind of like failed, you know, my son because he wasn't there, you know, in his formidable years or whatever. And I'm like, okay, but you were always gone anyway before that. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't just become a man your senior year of high school. You know, sure, you turn 18, but that doesn't mean anything, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I've asked my son since then, I've had a conversation with him, like, do you feel like him being gone so much and not, you know, do you feel like that has affected you now in your adult, you know, male life? And he says no. But he does say what I think happened, though, was that we lost that connection that we had, you know, because now he is turning into a man and he's, you know, with all these adult responsibilities and stuff. And he goes, yeah, sometimes I wish I had conversations with him. Like, I wish he was around so I could have those conversations with him with the things that he was going through back then as a young man, you know, that he could not have with me, even though he would tell me everything. And sometimes I'd be like, la, 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 la. I don't want to know. But you know, I feel like definitely he missed out on that, you know, not having his dad during that time, you know. So, and then he moved right after high school. He moved to Texas. So
I would tell you, I agree with his comment, I guess, because it happened to me with my dad. I mean, my dad, since I was a kid, he moved multiple times, different parts of Venezuela, and even though he always stayed within a few hours, still you're hours away, you know. So I will get to see him maybe once a month. So it was very short-lived, you know, for a weekend. So I got plenty of memories with my dad, I guess you could say, but that connection wasn't there because it
you disconnect.
yeah, completely, because you're not there. It's as simple as that. And if we're not talking on the phone and we're not trying to stay connected, then it's not gonna exist. So then fast forward, I'm 13, I moved to Miami. I moved in with my dad. Anytime we went to therapy, we went to this, we went to that. Mind you, I want to say that he was making decisions that was hurting little Linda. So it was hard for me to see a future in this relationship when patterns were repeating almost, you know? Yeah, so even though we lived together literally for my high school years, the connection wasn't there anymore. Too late.
Yeah.
Too late. At that point, it was too late. And like I said, we went to therapy. We tried. And like anything, if you want to work on you can make it better, but we just didn't see that side of it. But I think what your son said is that's really it. You know, if you don't have that connection in those early years, kind of like you say, it doesn't matter if he was deployed, and he was here, he was there, he wouldn't have made a difference that one senior year.
Right.
You know, not at all. But I do think that as people, there has to come a time where we have to take responsibility of our decisions and our lives. So we could have a lot of trauma, a lot of X, Y, and Z. At some point, you have to take responsibility of who you are, your spirit, and your mental state, your emotional state, and work on yourself because you love yourself, because you want a better future.
Right.
Because you don't want to, you want to break generational
Chains.
yeah, things like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a firm believer that, let's say a guy, a boy, right, doesn't have his dad, whether because of the military, deployed, whatever reason it may be. At some point, that boy, whether it is after high school or maybe in high school, I think it really all depends on the enlightenment that we have and how.
And the level of maturity.
Correct, right? But at some point, I don't care if you're a guy or you're a girl, you have to take responsibility for your life and your choices to be better people. One.
Right.
And two, if you really want to go there, I think therapy, right? And at least in my case, I always found father figures to kind of have that tenderness with me that I needed. You know, my uncle, my dad's brother actually was, those high school years, he was the bomb. He was the shit. I love that guy.
But that shows that relationship was needed.
Oh,
Because
yes.
you were still looking
Oh,
for it.
absolutely. I think every person needs that mom and that dad. And like I said, as long as you, and even if you don't want to, I think because it is a need, we're always going to be attracted or trying to replace. That's why nowadays in relationships, we have mommy and daddy issues, right? Where they're trying to, guys are trying to have these women take care of them and baby them. Why? Because they have mommy issues. So if you don't take care of yourself and your pain and your traumas, then you're obviously going to project it as an adult. But I do think there's a possibility of conquering your fate, per se.
Yeah,
Because I think if you don't take responsibility, if you don't go to therapy, if you don't find people to support you, then no, you're not going to grow up to be a good human being or a good part of society. I don't think so.
But I truly think it's in a person, and the reason why I say that is because I've seen people close to me that were in the military, and having that connection, whether it be with letters, whether it be with phone calls, with their children, was super important for them to understand and know that they were there for them, and that they're thinking about them, that they miss them as much as, so I have seen that, and I've seen those relationships blossom, that, I've seen the kids just very attached to their parents. And so it's definitely important, but I also see, I see where your son also felt the way he felt. And the one thing that his dad could have done was made his presence known to him.
Correct.
At least at that,
Yeah.
period in time of his life when he needed him. He didn't have to call him all the time, but he could send him a letter. Hey, bud, thinking of you. Just the tiniest notions would help. So here, since we're on this question, you
Me?
you didn't know your dad.
I did not. No. That was actually my next little subtopic: biological fathers versus stepfathers and mothers, both. So I grew up without my dad. Like, I was very young when my mom left my biological father. But I did have a father figure, kind of like what Linda was saying, but I had him growing up like my whole entire childhood. So by the time I met my ex-husband, I remembered we had this conversation because he lost his father when he was 11 years old. So, and it was a very traumatic death. So that kind of sticks in his, in his brain and is seared in there. But he was like, don't you ever didn't you feel like you missed out, like, with your father and everything? And I'm like, no, I truly have never felt that way. Like, I think it wasn't just until like maybe the last 5-10 years where I've actually thought more about it. Like, I wonder if I would have been a different person, had my father been around in my life or whatever. But I had my grandfather. So my grandparents, they helped my mom raise me. She was a single mom and stuff, and she had 2 jobs, you know what I mean? And when I was born, she was actually still in nursing school. So she was putting herself through school and then jobs and whatever. So they helped her a lot. And that's why she moved. I was born in California, but she moved me back when I was a year old, back to Texas. And that's why I grew up in Texas, because they helped her, they helped her with me. So I can honestly say, like, truly, from the heart, that I don't feel like I missed out on anything, not having my biological father around. But at the same time, there are things that I wonder about, I mean, curiosity, of course, like, again, what kind of person would I be? What kind of relationship would I have with him? Would it matter in the choices in men that I date? You know what I mean? Like things like that. So there are things that I'm curious about, but in my heart, I don't feel like I missed out on anything because I had my grandfather. And, so I had him. I knew he wasn't my dad, you know what I mean? But my grandma would say, she'd be making dinner or something, and she'd be like, "Ve dile a tu papá, a tu grandpa." Because that's what everybody used to call them abuelita, abuelito, right? But I was the only one that, I mean, I would talk to them in Spanish, but I would call them grandma and grandpa all the time. Grandma, grandma, like I hardly ever said abuelita or abuela or whatever. Like, it was so funny. I actually literally just had a dream about my grandmother last night, which is so weird. But yeah, so I personally don't feel like I missed out on anything. But you have both of you have a different situation where your parents, split up and stuff, but then you also had stepfathers. I didn't actually have, my stepdad didn't come into my life until the summer going into my senior year.
Oh.
So he and I don't have that kind of bond where like he raised me and all that stuff. So I don't really see him as a father figure. Even to this day, I mean, I'm 50 years old now, but I see him as my mom's husband. I do call him stepdad, but that took a long time for me to do that. Like when I introduce him, this is my stepdad, whatever. Usually I would be like, this is my mom, Mona, and this is Bert. It was Mona and Bert,
Yeah.
And, but now I introduce him as my stepdad because I'm giving him that. And also because they're married now. They dated for a long time. They've only been married, I think, for like 15 or 16 years. So, I mean, I think that it's different with my situation because I did have those. And then also my uncles, I think I'm an only child. I don't have any brothers and sisters. But all my cousins, I felt like were my brothers and sisters, because we were all very close. And we always spent a lot of time together. So all of my uncles, my mom's brothers, but also my mom's sisters' husbands, they all, kind of provided that like fatherly love, fatherly figure, to me. So anytime I was at one of my cousins' houses, spending the night or whatever, I felt like, ooh, that's my dad getting mad or whatever, like, and even though they would look at me like, we're not getting mad at you, we're getting mad at our own kids, right?
Yeah.
But still, I felt like I was part of that, like, ooh, we're getting in trouble.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that. I can relate to that because my mom's siblings, I guess, I was born and my family is from Maracaibo, right? So my grandma and then her family, they were all there. And then, long story short, by the time I was like 2, we lived in a different city with my mom's cousins and uncles. So I grew up, as a matter of fact, for many years, I didn't even know that my uncle and my aunt, they were not my mom's siblings, but her cousins.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. But I will say that because of 2 things. One, there were a couple of years there where my mom was very resentful towards my dad. And then my sister was also very hurt. I'm not going to get into details. And quite frankly, I don't know many of the details because I was a kid. And like I was saying, I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. So whenever I see problems, I'm
Conflict, you're like,
when I see conflict, I'm like, is this me? No? All right, you'll handle it. I don't need... Mm-mm. So I feel like that animosity, right, made me want to like see a better side of my dad. Like they're talking all this smack about you. I'm like, why can't you show yourself, present yourself differently. You're proving them right, you know? So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect was my school. Like I said, I was at a private school in Venezuela. They had like a Father's Day relay or something. So the Saturday before Father's Day, they had these big competitions. So basically it was for you to spend time with your dad, or sometimes it would bring their grandpa or whatever. And then like the rucksack, and you're jumping, and you know, so it was like all these fun little activities. And every year they would do this. Every year my dad never went. So that was the only time when I would feel like heartbroken, like, man, I feel I missed out on my dad. But I think it was because I was seeing other people, want this from their dad. Or like I literally gone, I will go with my mom or my uncle sometimes to these things. Because I wanted to participate. I wanted to be with my class doing all these things. But other than that, like kind of like you said, I don't feel like I missed him when he was gone per se, because there wasn't a link, there wasn't a relationship built. It was more of the self-awareness of my dad is not here, why is he not here? And then that's when I will kind of, I guess, go into like sadness or realization that maybe my dad should be here.
Yeah. Like, where are you, fool?
Yeah, but yeah.
And you, Joe?
Well, my mom was super young when she had me. She was 16. And then my dad was 19. And I think maybe 2 years or 3 years into the relationship, they parted ways. Well, I didn't know that my stepdad was not my stepdad until I was 11 years old. And me being the nosy sag that I am, I was going through my mom's drawer.
You know what it is? It just dawned on me. Wow, so many years and you didn't even know he was not your dad.
So at 11, I'm like looking through my mom's, and I didn't have my sister's and my sister and my brother's last name. My last name was different.
Yeah.
So I'm looking through my mom's drawer. She told me to get her something. I don't remember what it was, but I remember going into her room, opening the drawer, and there was like this envelope. I was like, oh. And I opened it up, and it was the divorce papers.
Oh.
With my birth certificate inside there too. And it said my mom's name, and it said my dad's name, my name. And I'm like,
who is this?
Who is this?
Who's this man? Yeah, because obviously in your eyes it's not your dad's name.
Yeah,
But
it's not. I'm like, I'm so confused, and I go and I asked my aunt, and I was like, Titi, who is this person? And she just looked at me.
How do you know that name?
And she was like,
how do I answer this? Oh, shit.
She was like, that's your
Listen, that's
your
straight
dad.
up novella moment right there.
Yeah.
She's like, that's your dad. So I guess my aunt ended up telling my stepdad that I knew. And then after that, it changed my relationship with my stepdad.
Really? You started to see him differently?
He started to see me differently.
Wait.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because you found out the truth?
Yeah. And it was like, you're not, and then the whole thing when stuff used to happen, you're not my daughter, but I've raised you.
Oh,
no.
So, I mean, it was a heavy pill to swallow for years and years and years, because he was married to my mom for a very long time. And my grandmother and my aunt used to tell me how amazing my dad was. My biological dad.
Oh.
So I actually got to meet him when I was 19. And I finally saw who I looked like.
Oh.
And I also got to meet my little sister. So I had another sister by my
that side.
biological dad. And we're like super twinsies, her and I, because we look like my dad. And I got to meet him. It was definitely, he was the person that my grandma, my grandpa said, my grandma and my aunt said he was a really sweet man. I know where I get a lot of my traits from.
So, question on the cheese, man. If he was such a great guy, how come your mom and him didn't work out? If that's even a...
My mom was she was a very difficult woman from what I hear, and I understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, if you meet my mom now, you fucking love her to pieces. But, think about it. You're 16 years old.
She was young and...
You have a baby. You don't know what the fuck you're doing, so you have a man that's older than you, and you're
how
trying
many
to...
years?
He was 19. She was 16.
Okay.
So she was taking care of a household. She was taking care, of a child. And so I kind of understand.
Oh, no, of course,
but then,
of course.
She ended up meeting my stepdad when she was with my dad.
Oh.
So they got together.
Gotcha.
As far as the story goes, it could be different. And
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong. If you watch this,
Oh, trust me, I know. I'm the same way with my dad and my mom's story. I never know if I know the real story.
But anyways, I got to meet him. He was a really, really good guy. I just didn't. His lifestyle was very different from my lifestyle, and I don't say, and I'm not trying to be cruel about it. I grew up in the country. He grew up in the city, so he was very used to the city life, which I wasn't. I tried and I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. So I ended up coming back to my mom, but lost touch with him, and then my mom ended up divorcing my dad, and like mine and my stepdad's relationship it's rocky. It's back and forth sometimes, because of the fact that I'm not his daughter. Sometimes I feel like...
Okay, I have a question.
Wait, let me finish this.
Okay, go.
I think that's why there's no real connection. Like, he doesn't call me or anything like that. He's very sporadic with me, and I'm sporadic with him. I give you the energy you give me.
Of course, 100%. As it should be.
Yes.
And my mom's always like, "Did you call your dad? Did you call your dad?" I'm like, "Has he called me? No." That's just how I feel about that.
So this weekend we had a good time.
Yeah.
And you decided that you found the girl for your dad. The woman of his life. Were you talking about your biological dad or your stepdad?
No, my biological dad passed away. He actually had a massive heart attack and he passed away. He was young. He was like in his 50s, I think. Lena was still in high school, my sister. No, my dad, as being a good person, my dad's a good person.
Yeah.
It's just, I think that relationship is tainted a little because of the blood. You would think that the blood wouldn't be a big issue, especially him raising me.
Listen, I'm the type of person that I'm gonna say there's something there that you don't know about. Like it doesn't make sense. Because if he loved you and he cared for you until you were 11, and then all of a sudden you find a paper, it's not like he didn't know you weren't his. You know what I'm saying?
I think it was.
So in my brain, I feel like he must have been going through something, whether emotionally or a fight with your mom or something that you don't know about, for him to have a character. Because I mean, I've been a stepmom, right, for 10 plus years.
But I don't remember my dad ever being a dad to us, because again, there was a lot of abuse in my house. There was a lot of abuse between my parents. There was alcoholism. There was a lot of stuff there. So I can tell you right now, I have absolutely zero memory of my stepdad ever being fatherly to me or anything like that. So because I had my mom, I had my grandmom, and I had my grandpa. And my grandpa was like the man. Like, he was it for me. My mom's dad. So
was mine for me.
he was just mujeriego, but he was super sweet. And my cousin's dad too, who passed away. Those were my two connections to the fatherly thing. I saw my grandfather with my mom. Like, he was very kind and gentle to my mom. And then my uncle, the way he was with my cousin Carmen, was what I wanted my dad to be like to me. And I wish I had more time with my biological dad because I think that relationship would have been awesome. And like even my sister tells me, she was like, he was an amazing dad. So, you know, it kind of stings a little bit.
Yeah.
You know? But I also know that a lot of it has to do with my mom. The reason why we didn't have that relationship. So
Yeah.
Mothers.
controlling Hispanic mothers.
That's me. It's funny because my son and I were having a conversation the other day. And so, I mean, history repeats itself, right? My son's biological father was not in the picture, but that was because of me. And same thing, my mom did the same thing to me. She took me away from him. She took me back to Texas. You know, I don't know what the actual story was. I asked her recently if she heard anything, you know, about my biological father. They met in nursing school and he was 10 years older than my mom. So I wonder if he's still even alive, you know, because my mom just turned 70 in September. And so I'm like, I wonder if he's still alive. But before she turned 70, actually, I had a conversation with her and I asked her, have you heard anything from him? Because I try to Google his name. I know his name. Obviously, it's on my birth certificate. So, and she says, no, she goes, last I heard, which was like probably 20 something years ago, that he was a big anesthesiologist in California somewhere. And I was like, how funny. I mean, who knows? Maybe I could have like run into him or whatever. I lived most of my adult life in California, you know what I mean? So
What's funny is both of your daughters are in medical.
yeah. Well, but so was my mom. My mom was an RN and she was a registered nurse for all her life. Like that's what she did. So yeah, on both sides, I guess, yeah. Anyway, but the conversation that I had with my son, he had said something, situation, and I won't go into details about that, but situation going on with him and his kids. And so he said something about like, I don't want to be like my biological father, you know, like just up and leave my kids, you know? And I was like, I had to correct him. I'm like, wait, hang on. I have to take responsibility for that, you know, because it was my decision. He came around. He called me several times. He wanted to see you. And I've told him this before, but I was like, but I have to take full responsibility for that. And he's like, yeah, he goes, but as a man, if you want to see your children, you're going to see your children.
Yes.
My son
Yeah.
made a point, shut his mom up. Okay.
It's true.
That's what pretty much happened to me too.
Yeah.
Well, I did try with Christian's family, and then it just got, because I felt, and you know, I was deserted as a child too. So the biggest thing was for him to have a relationship with his father, and you can't force a horse to drink water when you take him to the river.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So finally, I just got to the point that I was like, I'm not trying it anymore. And he just became mine. And that's how it has been. And then I met Tony, and from Tony raised him into the man he is now. And I mean, it's sad that he's gone because Sean needed him at 14. But then I had to step in again. Thank God I had practice from Christian.
You had to be both mom and dad?
I had to be both mom and dad for a long period of time. So, but you know, it does matter, and it matters because there's times that my oldest son is like, I wish he was here because I need advice, I need direction. I can, you know, moms can give the boys advice all day long, and it's not the same.
We're not men.
We're not men.
We're not men.
And everything's emotional. They say that everything from us is emotional. We want to cut somebody's legs off. We want to punch somebody in the face, you know, because it's the truth. We want to protect our kids, right?
Yeah.
But you know, it matters.
Yeah.
It does. It really does.
I agree.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with we were not made to be alone. You know, we're made to live life in community, in, you know,
Fellowship
so,
and
in
partnership.
fellowship. Correct. So I think it has been almost like the law of nature that there's supposed to be this multi-generational wisdom that we're supposed to pass down to the next generation. I just think that as a society, we've been so hurt, you know, by society, you know, as women, by men, by our parents. And I think like now we're in this stage where like we're learning to protect our peace. We're learning that what we think matters. And I feel like now we're in this next generation where they don't care to cut some relationships out of their lives if that means keeping their peace. You know, but that has pushed us away from the truth of we still need community, we still need people in our lives,
still need family.
So as much as like those, the single moms, I'm a mom and a dad, I'm a this and a that, which props to you. I'm glad that you were able to, push through that. But we should never, anyways, take away the necessity and the reality that our kids,
nuclear family.
Correct.
And don't let the trauma take over what can be out there for you as a family. I had a blended family, and with Tony taking care of Christian, to us raising Sean and Christian together, and the way that Tony just adored and loved his son, Christian. I mean, it can happen if you allow it,
I agree. I know we've gotten I knew we were going to go deep. I said at the beginning before we started recording, I feel like this is going to be a light conversation. I said, but then it could go different ways.
So many
It always
ways.
does.
It always does with us.
So predictable.
But I want to take a little break here because I mentioned in our last episode that we were going to start doing things a little bit differently and kind of incorporating different things into our podcast. So one of those things that we've talked about is incorporating what the fuck moments. And these are just off topic, completely off topic, just things that make us go, what the fuck, right? And it could be anything, okay? So we were having a conversation a couple of days ago, and I'm like, oh my God, that is our first what the fuck moment. So Miss Linda has our first what the fuck moment of
our show.
The season of our show ever.
Yes. Well,
take it away.
I will take it away, but I'll ask a question before I take the what the fuck moment.
Oh my gosh.
So here in the States, it's not too common, right? But I want to bring a possible scenario to you guys, right? So we're in Europe, and then all of a sudden we have a bidet, right? It's more common, right?
Yeah.
My question is, are you going to use the bidet or not use the bidet? How do you feel about washing after taking a shit?
I've been to Europe. I've been to Spain and Italy. And both times I did use a bidet. My cousin here, cousin and her husband, they have a bidet installed in their bathroom, in their toilet. Plus a heat warmer. Not a heat warmer, sorry. A seat warmer is what I meant to say. So you sit on their toilet and it's it's nice and warm every single time.
I don't like that.
It's kind of weird for me. But I've only used their restroom maybe 2 or 3 times. I usually go to the guest bathroom. But anyway, so
Good to know.
I have used a bidet, and first of all, it's fucking weird. When you have water literally splashing up your,
It's like an enema.
It's kind of, it's a little violating at first, especially depending on how the water pressure is.
Hey, but if you aim it at the right place.
Wing, wing.
Okay. But, so I have used it. It's a little weird. I still wiped after. I actually wiped before, and then I used it, and then I wiped after, to dry up.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. But the conversation first of all, go ahead with the what the fuck. Continue that.
Because this one's a good one.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked this question is because I ran into this video the other day that I shared with the ladies. What the fuck? I literally what the fuck? And it was a video it was a talk show, like Saturday Night Live.
She snorted. I guess I'm just thinking of the video.
It's alright,
Because I wish we had the video, but anyway, go ahead. It's in Spanish.
It is in Spanish.
It's in
Good
Spanish.
point,
Go
good
ahead.
But anyways, it's kind of like Saturday Night Live Spanish show. And they're just talking, I don't know, about wiping, I don't know how they got into it, But basically, she was saying like, then this one chick says, "No, yeah, because what I said, I poop and I shower," and then this other girl goes, "But together?" And she goes, "Yeah, I poop and I shower." And then this other girl goes, "But hold on, you're not being clear. Like, at this like together, like you poop and you shower, like in the shower,
pooping in the shower."
And then she goes, "Yeah, how else do you guys poop?" And then everybody's like, wait. How does your poop even go down the freaking shower?
Oh,
and then and then she goes, it's liquid. Like, what are you talking about?
What the fuck? Doesn't everybody poop like that?
Doesn't everybody poop like that? And then everybody's like, you need to go see a doctor.
Even when it's liquid, it's still chunky.
Yeah, exactly. Gross. So now it got me thinking: is there people out there? Do you poop in the shower? Is that a thing? Is that a thing?
Not for me. Even if you do, please say no.
Lie to me. Lie to me.
Boy, I hope you're using a lot of bleach in that shower. That's disgusting.
Goodness.
So when she first told me about it, we were on the phone, and then she shared the video with us on Saturday because we were all together. But on the phone, when she first told me, she's like, we had this conversation. That's what started the whole thing about the bidet and everything. And so I said, I can't even understand the people that go poop on the toilet, right? They poop in the toilet, don't use toilet paper, and they don't have a bidet, and they fucking jump in the shower and then get like, how do you not wipe the shit off your ass first?
That's how the Romans used to do it.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, no.
Yeah,
I
no.
was like, no.
No.
In the Roman times, I can
They used
understand
the
that
scooper.
to some degree, but good
No,
Lord.
no, I not even to no degree. What the hell? Listen, I have a 3-year-old. You know, when the kids are little, we go through a lot of sicknesses. He's had like the runs, stomach flu and whatnot. He's naked, but I'm holding him up because I'm setting the water. He's cranky. He's not feeling good. And as soon as I put him in the bathtub, he like, well, I'll be honest. I feel like he farted and he just, know. And I'm like, and here I am like, oh my gosh. Like, you're in the bathtub. I'm like, and then, so here I am, and I'm like, all these chunks.
The joys of motherhood.
Yeah, but then all these chunks are in the bathtub, and I'm like,
Oh my
so with the shower, trying to get them in there, gross.
Chunks.
And
Man, I
when
can barely clean my freaking grandson's ass now at this point in my life.
God, yeah, no.
Carry on, Linda.
so I don't know. So
Yeah,
what the fuck?
that's definitely a what the fuck moment.
Y'all have to
and
watch
not
that
really
video.
off topic because you brought it in, you tied it in really well with the raising of the kids. So,
Yeah.
oh my God. Anyway, okay. So that's how those are gonna work. We're just gonna be like, what?
Can I say one comment?
Yes.
Talking about raising kids and
Yes.
taking the shit. As a new mom,
Yeah.
nobody prepares you about the first poop. That first black, sticky poop.
Yeah, when they actually go to real food.
No. When they're out of your belly and you first feed them, that first poop is sticky, black, like black.
It's like tar.
It's tar.
I didn't experience that with my kids.
They all go through that because it's like the first poop that of
Like all the lining of the gut and everything.
right, whatever they were eating. It's like that first.
Well, okay, so 2 of my kids, my oldest and my youngest, were in the NICU. So they probably did that for me. But my older daughter, well, I had 3 C-sections, so I was always in surgery when they took my kids away. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I didn't have to change their first poop, I guess. I did not. Yeah, I didn't.
Let me
experience
tell you,
that.
I was traumatized. I
do remember sticky, dark poop, but not the first poop.
Oh gosh,
I don't remember that.
I
I hope you're not looking for a picture because I don't need to see.
yes, you need to see.
Oh my God.
Because it's mind-boggling.
I don't wanna
It's
see.
mind-boggling.
I'll
Show our
pass.
audience.
Oh, I
Why do
can't.
I have to be the only one to see this?
I'll pass.
No, thank
I-
you. Maybe
No,
I
yes,
just
yes.
don't. Maybe I
Okay.
just don't remember it. I don't know.
I'll try to show and not. I mean, they're all graphic, but not so graphic.
Oh, he's graphic, all right.
I'll use this one.
Ay, Dios mío.
You see what I mean? It's just black. It's just black poop. That's what I'm saying. It's
Look at
just
mole.
yes, it does. Yes, it does. But that's what I'm saying. Nobody prepares you for that first poop.
I'll never eat mole again. I'm gonna make it next week.
No, you can't.
I'm
You
out.
can't. Just not black mole. You have to.
It'll be
Nope.
chocolate mole.
She killed it for me.
And you know what? I really like mole.
So do I.
Mole.
I love mole too. I make it a little spicy though, so I don't know if you like mine.
Not anymore. Thank you.
I can't believe you don't remember that, Yvette.
I don't. And I'm telling you though, but two of my kids had to be, rushed to the NICU, so they probably changed
They
theirs.
changed it for you.
But my middle child, I mean, I remember changing her pamper the first. I couldn't put her on the tip because I was still in surgery. So, yeah, I didn't get to her till later. They didn't bring her to me till after the anesthesia wore off.
Oh wow! So maybe you did skip those first foods.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, even my
Thank God.
Yeah. Because let me tell you, my daughter, my stepdaughter, when she gave birth, I was with her, and she's like, "Mom, what is this?" Like, because it gives you the sensation like something's wrong with the baby.
Yeah.
Because
why is it so dark?
Because it's black. It's literally black, and it's like
everything inside
it's
your
like
intestines. Yeah.
gooey. Like it's weird. It's very like. It's weird.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Nobody talks about that. And
There's a reason we don't talk about it, Linda.
Yeah, I'll never eat mole again ever in my life. Thank you,
I'm gonna make
Linda.
it for you. You are gonna eat it.
No, I'm not.
All right. The next little subtopic I want to bring up is the difference in loving your kids versus loving your grandkids. Now, fun fact: all three of us, even Miss Linda, the young one, we're all grandmothers. So, take it away, Miss Joanna. What do you think? What's the difference between loving your kids and loving your grandkids? And is there a difference? Because some people say that there's not, and
No, there's a difference.
most people say that there is.
There's a
I
difference.
believe there
I
is.
think so.
I don't care what anybody says. There's
Yeah.
a difference. And you have unconditional love for your children, but the love that you have for your grandchildren, it's from infinity to beyond, like freaking Buzz Lightyear says. Because I think because we don't have the stress on us as parents,
I was gonna say
that we can love on them, raise them,
And that's it.
and just
That's it.
give them back.
And that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Just loving them. Just and so
There you go.
And you go. In our reality, you don't, unless they live with you full time, which I know you experienced for a little bit. But unless they live with you, you don't really have to discipline them. You really don't have to,
Right.
all those things that you did to your kid. That, quite frankly, if you think about it, is what makes a relationship stressful and whatnot. When it comes to your grandkids, all you got is love. That's
Yeah.
it. All you got is love.
I have to agree with that. You said something right now, like it makes the relationship with your children stressful because you're trying to love on them and that's it. But yet you're also responsible for keeping them alive,
Yep.
for disciplining them and turning them into good human beings, teaching them right from wrong. And then you don't have all your shit together. I'm sorry, we don't as young parents, moms and dads. We don't have all our shit together. So how the fuck are we supposed to then in turn teach these little beings that are little monsters running around? It is very stressful. Parenting is very stressful. So grandparenting, we release all of that bullshit because it's not our responsibility, right? I mean, it takes a village. So yeah, you know, we are involved. But it's not our full-time responsibility. So when they're with us, then we can just, like you said, just love on them and just...
We become their favorite humans.
Yeah, we do.
But
we do,
Can
yeah.
I tell you something that I found pretty interesting? Love my grandson to death. But can you believe, and I don't know if it's because we pour so much love into them, right? The moment I give him a look, the moment I say, hey, he'll be like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
now, if I did that with my own kid, my kid would challenge me.
Yeah.
And that's a funny age gap. So my grandson is 2, and then my son is 3. So they're actually only 1 year apart. So I feel like I have similar age. So that's what I'm saying. Like my son will be no.
The difference is that your grandson, you're not around your grandson 24/7.
Yeah.
So your grandson, he doesn't know how far he can push it with you yet. He doesn't know what he can get away with yet.
True.
Elijah knows.
Yeah.
He's like, man, I got this down. You
Yeah.
know? Like, watch me, mom.
I got
You're
mine.
like, no, don't do that.
Don't
watch
touch it.
me. Yeah. Exactly. And so the stern look and the stern tone in your voice actually has an effect on your grandson because he's not used to it from you or from maybe not even his mom. It's going to be different. Like when his mom gives him a little whatever, he's going to challenge her, but he won't challenge you. And then maybe that's also maybe adds on to the fact that we can just love on them because we know that they're going to listen to us when we say no or whatever, when we try to discipline them a little bit or try to keep them alive. Don't stick your finger in that socket.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's different, but because he's not with you 24/7, so he hasn't learned how to challenge you yet.
Oh yeah, Kai's world comes to an end when I'm freaking mad at him. He's like, oh,
Gigi, what is it? He calls you Gigi. Don't be mad at me. How funny. So what I did with my kids, and I wanted to see what you guys thought about this. Like you mentioned at the very beginning of this episode where you're raising all the kids, but you're not raising them the same because each of them are their own individual persons, right? They have their own personalities and whatever. So even twins, they still are two different people. So what I did with my kids when I was raising them, when they were young, I made sure that I had dates. So I had mother-son date, make sure that I spent time with him just alone. So then my ex would take the girls. Then with my older daughter, same thing. I would go on dates with her. And then my youngest I did more because I was home with her longer than I was with the two older ones. But I would take her. She was my little partner in crime. She was my shopping buddy. She was my everything. She was always, stuck at the hip, like with me everywhere. But I made sure that I did that with them, even, as they grew older. My son went off to boot camp and stuff when he joined the Army. He came home and we still went on a date. When he came home, we went and watched a movie and went to dinner and stuff and he's at that point, he's like, 19 years old or whatever, 20. So do you guys feel like that's important to establish individual relationships with your children, or are you more of the mindset that we need to treat everybody the same and, discipline them the same, treat them the same, love them the same? What do you guys think?
In my case, I did that even with my stepkids. With the girls, not really with Isaiah. I didn't do it as much as I would have wanted to do it, but I did think it was very important. And I have dates with Logan, and I still do, not so much with Elijah. But I think it was necessary, at least in my specific scenario. The parenting or the dynamics felt so complicated because, like, with my stepkids, we always had like drama, like with like their mom's side of the family and things like that. So I'm not gonna lie, for Logan's, I want to say like pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, probably those 3 years, there was a lot going on in my house. So I felt like I needed to give him attention to show him, hey, you're still relevant and important. And I feel like with Logan, I've had to be a little more intentional because I feel like a lot of his emotional foundation got broken multiple times, because our scenario was so complicated,
Right.
So, like I said, youngest of 4, and then all of a sudden not having siblings, so all of a sudden one of them comes back, and then all of a sudden the second one comes back, and then one of them leaves again, and then all of a sudden they all left again, and then I have a new baby, and then we get divorced, so it's like, I feel like emotionally his foundation, relationship-wise, got broken because of life. So I'm definitely more intentional with him now because I want to make sure that foundation gets rebuilt and that, like you said, there's, the whole world can be falling apart, my son, but I'm here. I'm here. So I think it's definitely important.
I agree. Joe?
I used to have my mother-son dates. Like I think my relationship with my kids are similar, but they're also different. Like Sean, to me, my youngest, is more protective of me. And he's very, like, he loved our dinners together. Whereas, you know, Christian's older. He has his life, he has his child, he has this. So to have a one-on-one with him is a little harder because he has responsibilities. But I did have that one-on-one time with Christian when he was smaller. We would have our dates. We would go and do fun things together and stuff like that. And I think that's created the closeness with my boys, just in a different way. Their memories are a little different for each of them, but I've always been the center. Like, this is you and me, kid.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on around, so much noise around you, it's you and me, and this is who I am. So you can always come to me.
I like that. I watched a video and I was like, oh my God, I did that with my son. Where this mom takes her son on a date, but she actually allows him to take her on the date.
Yeah.
So
I
gives
saw
him
that.
$50 and okay, with your 50, and he paid the whole time.
Oh, I've seen that
they
one.
went,
It's so cute.
I think they went to get ice cream or maybe they went to a movie. I can't really remember, but they went, he planned it out. He said, this is what I want to do. Obviously she drove because he was like 9 or 10 or something like that. But teaching him like how to treat a lady, on a date, and giving him like the responsibility, like, here, I'm not going to hold the money for you. You're going to pay. So I did that to my son a few times too. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, people are still doing that. I'm like, good job, Yvette. Good job. I think it's cute because I feel like it really teaches them, how to be creative, and taking a woman out on a date. And then B, also just knowing that if I gave him $100, it was like, I let him keep the change, and that's your allowance. Whatever you want to spend on me. And he would, I mean, of course, most of the time he's like blowing it, right? He's like, let's go to the movies and let's go get ice cream and let's go get this and that, whatever. And so, but it was a lesson, I think, in how to be creative, but then also how to treat a woman, how to treat your mother, on a date. And I also made it a point to talk only about his stuff. Like, not about his sisters, not about, whatever. It's just what's going on with you. You and your friends in school and a girl you like or whatever. I mean, all the girls liked him because he had the Justin Bieber hair when he was younger. Oh my God, he was so cute. Yeah, I'll show you guys a picture after. But he was so cute, and but letting him voice his, not just opinions, but just talk about his stuff, talk about his life. Because obviously his life was separate than mine, even though he was my son and he's young, but I'm not at school with him. Those things aren't happening to me, right? So just letting me be the sounding board for him so that he can kind of just vent and release. So creating that safe space with him, but then also instilling like good values. So, which I think is good. Very, very good. So the other topic I had was raising boys versus raising girls, but I think we kind of have touched on like a lot of that already. So, I don't know. Anything else you girls want to talk about?
Going back to that question that you just bypassed really quick, reminded me of talking about being a helicopter parent or not. When I have my stepdaughters, I can honestly tell you that I especially myself, I was so, I was a helicopter parent. Like
with the girls?
Yeah, with the girls.
It's different.
With the girls, yeah. Like I had this rule, right? Like, you have a phone, but I pay for the phone. So it's my phone. It's not your phone. So whenever I want to, I can tell you, give me the phone and you're going to give it to me with no questions. And I feel like even though I was a helicopter parent, I feel like they did it to themselves, because you start to get to know your kids' tells, right?
Right.
So I would be cooking, and then my stepdaughter would be in the kitchen counter because she was actually very talkative. She wanted to be there. She was not a kid to want to go hide in the room. So she'll be, on the phone, and I'm like, and I can see, and I'm like, oh gosh, here we go again. She's falling in love again. All right, and then I was like, okay, and then I would let it go for like a couple of days, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, give me the phone. The stuff that I found in those phones, girl.
Really?
Yeah.
At what age? How old?
Well, the first time, and actually, we gave her a phone when she turned 13. So it was.
Okay.
So she turned 13. We gave her a phone, and within a month, she got it taken away. But that was because, again, I've always had this thing of like, let me check the phone. So I
Yeah.
checked the phone, and what happened? She was talking to a complete stranger. She had opened an Instagram page, and then she was talking to this person that she met on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And at 13, she was telling this boy about, oh yeah, I get out of school early, come meet me. And he was like 19 or 20.
Oh no.
13.
Boy.
Now I can laugh. Then I did not laugh.
No,
so
of
much.
course, of course.
When she was 15, I did one of the same things. Let me see the phone. Let me check. And then, with the moment she puts her head down, I already know I'm about to find things that I don't want to find. And then when I open the phone, and I'm like,
No.
oh yeah. At 15, she was talking to this
Gosh.
dark skinned, blessed dude. And I'm like, oh. And then listen, all I can tell you is that my ex at the time, he looks, obviously as a father, you don't want to know none of this.
Of course.
But then he looks at me and he goes, "Really, I'm sorry." Because the picture that my daughter had on her phone.
Estaba como un elefante.
Yo, that thing was, I'm like, and you're 15? Like, because at that point, it wasn't like she was talking to some older dude. No. This was somebody in her class. And I'm like, and you're 15?
Do they grow like that at 15?
I don't even know.
Listen, well, come on now.
I wasn't having sex at 15.
I was going to say, yes,
So.
I agree, me either. But let me tell you, my years as a youth leader at church, there were middle schoolers having sex.
We talked about this in one of our
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't, it doesn't, nowadays, it doesn't surprise me.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me either because when my son was in school, I think he was like he must have been like a freshman. Maybe he was in 8th grade. I don't know. But I saw a girl, no, he must have been in 8th grade. I saw a girl at the middle school and she was pregnant, going to school. And she was pregnant
in middle school.
I don't know what grade she was in. She looked old.
Yeah.
She looked like I thought she was a mom.
Oh, gosh.
Like a pregnant mom. And he was like, no, she goes here. And I was like, I mean,
in middle school, damn. I mean, we all know.
7th, 8th grade. I mean,
we all know
goodness
people that had
gracious.
kids at 13 or whatnot, but.
I mean, it was for our generation, it was very common for girls, like for your mom, like having kids at 16, 15, 16, 17, before you were 20. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was lucky. I didn't get pregnant. It's funny. I got pregnant when I was 19. The next month, I turned 20. So while I was pregnant, my whole pregnancy, I was 20. And then I had my son. And then 4 months later, I turned 21. So for our generation, that's kind of old to be having kids, because a lot of my friends were having kids, when they were teenagers still. We're in high school. So
Shoot, the high school I used to go to had a nursery.
Really?
Yeah, so the kids could finish school. There was a daycare inside this high school.
Wow.
I mean, well, good on them. Because
Yeah.
you still wanted, the kids to have education and stuff. Where I grew up, they had to go to alternative schools. And if they didn't want to be ridiculed and criticized, like, I mean, everybody knew you were having sex, you got pregnant, okay, big deal, whatever. But I don't know, I guess they didn't want it to be like, we're accepting this, like a nursery in the high school. But at least it gives the kids the opportunity to continue going to school, finish at least their high school education. Mm-hmm. It's hard, but yeah, crazy though, having to deal with that. Mm-hmm. I think the only time that I ever dealt with anything like that was with my youngest. And she was having a conversation. She liked this guy over one of the video games that I can't remember the name of it right now off the top of my head. And she was in a chat room with him. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And they were talking about all kinds of stuff. Luckily, you couldn't like upload pictures or anything like that. So I never saw anything. But the conversations, I was like, no, like this is it. So I had to have multiple conversations with her because they don't see. They think they're untouchable, and they don't see the dangers of it, So I had to have multiple conversations with her. Like, no, this is not what you do. You don't give out your information. Her social media, like I would always, I was that stalker mom, like stalking and stuff. Like, why are you putting what school you go to and what sport you play and what grade you're in and what, no. I'm like, you think that you're talking to some boy that goes to this other school.
It's not a boy.
It's not a boy. It's some creepy old guy that's sitting in his basement waiting like to see who he can lure into his basement, you know? I mean, this is how girls get taken all the time. And they're real stories. It's not like, you know, oh, and it doesn't happen to me or it doesn't happen around me.
Now that you said that, quick, whatever, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Do you think back in your days, right? And I almost want to say my days too, just because I was raised in Venezuela and I feel like things were behind than here per se. Because I was raised the same way. Like I remember that I used to play soccer with the boys because I was one of the few girls in the neighborhood, and I was a tomboy. So, anyways, but I feel like back then you wouldn't hear so much about people getting taken away or raped as much as we do now. Do you think that has to do with now there's more communication, more social media, more awareness?
Yes. I almost got taken.
Yeah.
I literally almost, like, oh, you talk about like the white vans with the black windows and all that stuff. Yeah. This guy me and my friend were walking, and it was dusk, like nighttime. It wasn't dark, but the sun had already gone down. You could still see, and the lights were starting to come on. And the guy that I was seeing, the guy that I was dating, there was like a creek or whatever in between his neighborhood and my neighborhood. So we had to walk all the way around unless we jumped the creek, but nobody ever wanted to do that, right? So we'd have to walk out of our neighborhood, cross the bridge, and go into his neighborhood. We were coming home, and we were walking. It was me and my friend, and we were walking home, and I must have been about 14 or 15. So I wasn't that little. I mean, I was a teenager. I was a girl, young girl. And this van comes up to us, and he's slowing down, and he's like, "Hey, you guys need a ride?" And creepy old guy, like, well, this is probably 50. So, but for me, that was old back then. So probably 50. But
but hold on. Quick.
Yeah.
50-year-olds back then does not look like 50-year-olds now.
True.
I don't know what we have done, but it's
true.
It's
We've aged. We started to age better.
Yeah.
Magical.
But anyway, so that happened, and he literally was like, "Come on, get in." I mean, he had a deep voice, I remember, and he was wearing a cap. Creepy guy. And then my friend turns around, and she was like, "If you don't want to get your fucking ass kicked, blah, 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 whatever." And so we went into the first house. It just so happened, this guy, his name was Jay, lived there, and I had a crush on him. And it just so happened that was the house that we went in, even though I had my boyfriend. But anyway, we went into that yard, like, because they had a fence or whatever. We went into his yard, and then she was like, "We're going to call the cops." And no. We go and we're knocking on the door, please answer. But we could hear them practicing the band in the garage. So we knew they were there, but nobody was coming to the door. And I was like, "Oh my God." And he was there. He was waiting to see. And then the sister or somebody came to the door and opened the door. And I was like, "Oh my God, I know this girl." I'm like, "Fuck." And then my friend Susie, she's like, "This guy is trying to, take us, whatever," and whatever. Anyway, whatever. So she let us in, and we ended up hanging out there. And then he drove us home, and we were only like 4 blocks away from at the time I was staying with my grandma. So we were only 4 blocks away from my grandma's house. But yeah, that was creepy. So what I'm trying to say is that it happened back then, but less attention on it, less social. I mean, we didn't have social media back then, so
We didn't have true crimes.
we didn't have the internet back then. So we didn't have any of that. So I mean, when things happened, it was because, and the news told you that it happened. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So, or the neighbors, whatever. But yeah, I definitely think that it happened very often back then. It was just talked about less.
For sure. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think. But anyway. Oh my God. Look at how fast time flies when we're having fun. Miss Joanna has our words of wisdom today. So take it away.
Not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear your path.
There you go.
Amen. I feel like even when we were young and even now, we always go through stuff, when we think that things are very traumatic. Like, I didn't grow up with my dad. You lost your dad. You lost your dad too, in a sense, with the divorce and stuff. So, I mean, we all go through things when we're younger and when we're older too. So I feel like sometimes it's just to kind of create that path to let us turn into the people that we're actually going to be, right? So I like that one. Thank you, Miss Joanna.
You're so welcome, Miss Yvette. Because that was from you.
True story. When we look things up and stuff, like, I mean, I hear things and I'll take a screenshot, or not hear things, read things, I take a screenshot. But sometimes I do hear things and I'll write it down. But we share them with each other, and sometimes today.
This one must have hit her hard because I did have one, honestly.
I
I have a little calendar that I ripped that her cousin Kim gave me that I love. So now they're like Post-it notes, so I put them all over my wall in my office. And I had one for today, but I was like, that one's pretty good. So
I'll give it to you.
I'll give you that one.
And
the next one, I'm coming prepared with my
Prepared,
sticky
yeah.
note.
So I actually was just going through my because like I said, it takes screenshots and stuff, and I was going through my camera roll, and I saw that one. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And I'm like, who's doing the thing? Oh yeah, Joanna. So I sent it to her, and I'm like, hey, I said, this is a good one in case you don't have one already, right? Because she's been having like work days or work be working sometimes, right?
Work be working too much sometimes.
Yeah. So anyway, so I sent it to her. And I didn't know you had one. I said in case you don't have one, but anyway. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of Chats con Sabor.
Bye.
Adiós, amigos.